Fab Flashy Show, where elegance meets empowerment. The space where real women share real stories of resilience, healing, and reinvention. Today's episode is deeply powerful and deeply personal. My guest is Ruth, a survivor, woman of faith, first responder, and author whose life journey is a testimony of God's redemption. Ruth has endured abuse, trauma, and unimaginable hardship, yet through faith, courage, and perseverance, she has transformed her pain into purpose. Her story is one of survival, healing, and restoration. Ruth, thank you so much for being here and trusting us with your story. Now, Ruth, for those of us meeting you for the first time, how would you describe who Ruth is today beyond titles and accomplishments?
Today, I'm that crazy person who loves the outdoors, who climbs waterfalls to photograph what they look like from the top down. I sit at the jetties in Atlantic City to photograph storms as they come in, all to find God's beauty so that I can share it with everybody else. Even in a storm, there is beauty that can be found in it.
Absolutely. I love it. Now, what does healing personally mean to you in this season of your life?
Healing is a never-ending journey, finding that it never stops, that you're always challenged to go a little bit deeper with the healing aspect, to attack one other red flag that might pop up. So I think that it's never ending, that you always need to continue to work on yourself to get better at what you have endured.
Your story begins with childhood trauma and abuse. What would you want women to share who share similar pain to know right now?
That they're not alone, that most importantly, it was never their fault. For the longest time, I thought that it was me, that it had to be something with my personality, something that I did to draw that kind of attention to myself. And as I got older and was able to escape, I realized it was never my fault. It was never about what I've done. It's about what that person is going through in their own life to cause them to do it to me. So learning that distinguishment was a big challenge. But then when I finally got it, I was like, that was a big hooray, because the burden was finally off of me.
That weight lifted off you had to be just a feeling of freedom, I'm sure.
It was a tremendous burden lifted. It was like, wow, I can finally breathe again and learn who I was and stop blaming myself. And then I could finally grow and determine who I needed to be in my life instead of trying to figure out what I did wrong that caused all this to happen to me.
And you also survived an abduction, a moment that permanently alters someone's sense of safety. How did that experience shape your emotional and spiritual journey?
I was a teenager when that happened, and I was someone who was, at that point in time, was abused since I was 7. And looking for escape, I went out with a friend who was much older than me. She took me dancing in a bar, and an experience that I was like, I shouldn't be doing this. I'm underage. But I was looking for escape from, just for a little while, not to drink, because I didn't. I just learned that that there's life outside of an abusive home. So I learned that I liked dancing. So we went out quite frequently to dance. I learned back in the day it was disco. So I was like that disco queen person. And yes, exactly. And it was a lot of fun. I still dance to this day, except now I do country line dancing. But one night we were out, and we were parked far away from the building that we were going into, because the band there was very popular and they always drew a crowd. So we had to park far away, which we were kind of used to doing that. It was not a big deal. We were walking back to the car. It was 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, I was 16 and should have been home in bed so I can go to school the next day. But that's a story for another day. But We walked back to the car, and this time, though, she yelled at me to walk quickly, not to look behind, and just get in the car. And
Mhm.
I didn't understand. I didn't argue. I opened up the door and got in the car. But before we could drive away, there was someone in the car behind us. And
Wow.
he drew a knife to my throat and told her to drive.
Mm.
And we did. She drove. We followed his instructions, which were kind of odd. He just said, just drive. I'm going to figure out what I want to do to you. And he took us into the woods. Um, we were familiar with driving in the woods because where we lived, there were lots of trails. So he took us back into those. And I was like, okay, we're going to die back here. And
Mm.
he said that he was going to either rape us or beat us or tie us to a tree and slice us up so that the animals could eat us. And but at that point in time, I'd been searching out for God for a while and remembering an old church that I went to when I was 5 and remembering the peace that was there. And I was like, wow, I wonder if I should pray about now. And after 3 or 4 hours of driving around, I did. I prayed. And the man, before she could even stop the car, he asked her to stop the car. He opened up the door and jumped out. And then he left. We couldn't find him, but we went to the police station. And he had a criminal record, so they arrested him. He went to jail. He
Mhm.
did serve his time and he got out. And he did it again. And we were called to come in as a character witness. But this time, the women, he killed both of them.
Oh my
So
goodness.
that was that was definitely a traumatic time, but definitely drew me closer to the Lord, which I'm grateful for that. For without that, I probably would have come, but I came to him a lot quicker. But it was definitely traumatic, and I'll remember that man's face till I die, probably what he looked like.
Wow, that is an amazing story. I can't imagine.
It was crazy, but God is faithful, and
Yes,
he threw him out that car before we could even do anything about him.
definitely divine intervention beyond our understanding. And later, you eventually escaped an abusive marriage at the age of 35. Now, what was the moment that gave you the strength to finally choose yourself and your safety?
It was a process. I had been sheltered I married him. I ran away from home at 17 to get away from my abusive stepfather, and wound up marrying an abuser and was married to him until I was 35. And the process took time for me to wake up and realize, hey, there's a better life out there than being hit every day and to lock your children in a bedroom when their father comes home because you don't know what he's going to do.
Mhm.
I looked at my kids and I was like, I need something better for them. So I got brave one day. A friend of mine had said a long time ago about karate. So I told him I wanted to learn. And to my surprise, he was like, yeah, go ahead. But I'm
Okay.
going to go to the class with you and watch. So I was like, whatever, you can come. But that class gave me the courage to see that I can be strong. Could I ever take him down? I don't know. But did I have enough confidence now to fight back? Yes. So he didn't like my courage that was growing, and he became more abusive, but then I became more stubborn as well to fight back. So, in search of myself, I joined a rescue squad. And he didn't like that because those people were showing me that, wow, look at you, you're good at this. And it lifted me up. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. Somebody actually thinks that I can do something with my life instead of him just putting me down and saying, I'll never be anything. So they
Mhm.
gave me courage as well to
Wow.
um, to find myself, and that courage came into play. He came home one night, and um, he was different. He was into demonic stuff, so it every night
Mhm.
was like odd. It was just very traumatic. It was hard to deal with. I never knew what I was going to get. Didn't know if I was going to get hit or how many times or if my kids were going to be involved. But this night was different. He came home with a different rage than he normally had, and it was greater than I'd ever seen.
Wow.
And he put me to the floor with a chokehold. He was strangling me,
Mm.
and I was dying. I could feel it. And I was just praying again. I was at that point. I went to church, and I was like, Lord, I don't know what this purpose is, why you're going to take me home, but I'm ready. I can't live like this anymore. Take me home. Just protect my kids. But
Mhm.
at that time, the chokehold was broke, and I was able to get up and get into my car and drive away. And I went to the rescue squad where they took me in, and I started the process of a safe house and things like that. But I never went back after that.
Again, that's hard to divine intervention is the only explanation, just again, beyond our understanding. Now, you say the church remained your anchor through every season. What role did faith play when it just felt unbearable?
When I was little, um, I looked across the street and there was this church, and I was just like, what is this place? And so, being 5, I was curious. I went across the street and went in, just walked myself in and just plopped myself down and learned about the Sunday school. And every week I went until we started moving, which we did quite frequently. But
Mhm.
before that happened, those people there just captured me. The kids I grew up with, the church, the pastor, they're kids, and I still remain friends with all of them today. And but
Wow.
the love that was there just captured me, and it stayed. And so I never really let go of that. And when the troubles happened with the abuse of my stepfather, I yearned for that closeness of those people, but we lived too far away. And then
Mhm.
when my mom got cancer, I was surprised. She was like, "Can we go back to that little church that you went to when you were a kid?" And we did, and was able to heal my relationship with my mom before she passed. And then that church became my anchor when I married the abusive husband. So the Lord was there through everything. I went to him through all of it because he was the only, I guess you could say, love that I felt. I didn't feel that there was any other love in my life besides him. So it was a bond that was greater than I could have with any people. And I yearned for people to love me because my mom didn't until she was dying. We reconciled our relationship. Um, the men in my life, as you could see, they didn't show much love until later on. But
Right.
the only one who was constant was God. So that's where I went through all of this, and I'm still there today.
Gone through a journey, managing and dealing with everything, and as you working through your past. So, how did your relationship with God evolve as you walked through the trauma, the survival, and the recovery?
It evolved to where he wasn't just someone I ran to in times of trouble. He was someone that I leaned on as a friend. When I was sick, I would be like, "Hey, like, okay, like, what's up with this? And can you help me get through this?" And he was just my confidant through everything. I feel like I could always talk to him. I mean, like he doesn't like verbally speak to us. We know, but I could feel his presence. And if I really wanted to know something, I would read the Bible and I was able to find it. And so he communicated in that way. And he was just like my everything through, like, didn't matter what trials I was going through. If I was going through victories, he was there to lift me up and encourage me where other people didn't. So he fit everything that I was looking for in a person. He was.
And then later, you graduated valedictorian from a chiropractor assistant school. Now, what was it that motivated you to pursue education and service to others after going through that trauma?
I felt a need to always to help others, even though I was hurt so much myself, to let people know that there were people who care about them, um, really played heavy on me. I guess because of the abuse, I wanted people to know that they are loved. So I always had that desire. So being an EMT was the first part. And then when I was finally free from the abusive marriage and I was able to move on in my life and begin to grow, when I turned 50, I was like, hey, like I never got to go to school because when I was 16, I had to quit because the abuse was so bad that I couldn't study anymore. I went from a straight A student to never going to school. So what do you call it? The counselor? I don't even think the guidance counselor
The
that
guidance
I had,
counselor, right? Uh-huh.
she was the best. She says, you can't ever tell anybody what I'm going to do. But she said, I'm going to help you quit. And I was like, wait, what? She's like, I'm going to
Wow.
get your GED and we're going to study, because I told her what was going on and we took an avenue to get help. But unfortunately, with abuse, the first thing that was said to me was, what did you do to ask for that? And my response was, I was 7 when I was raped by my stepfather. I don't think I knew what sex was at that time. And so the counselor she was just like, you know what? We're not even going here, because they were blaming me. Now that I was a teenager, they're like, why did you stay? And I was like, well, I stayed because my life was threatened every day, that if I left or told my mom what he did, that he would hurt me more. So
Mm.
being a kid and being told that your whole life, you're going to stay.
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
you're brainwashed. So she was just like, you know what? It's a losing battle. We're just going to get you out of that house, but you can't do it unless you get your diploma. So I did get a GED. She helped me. I passed like the top, not something to be proud of, but the top 2 or 3 in that class. But I never graduated. You know what I mean? I never
That
got
is
that.
something to be proud of. That is.
It is,
That's
but I was like,
definitely a good
yeah, but
thing.
I didn't get to do what the other kids did. You know what I mean? They all
Because
had
with
graduations and
everything you went through, you didn't get to have, well, first of all, your childhood was taken away from
yes,
you. You didn't get to experience some of the traditional things that, some of us, got to experience. So I see what you mean.
yes. So I was like, that always held a sour spot in my stomach. I was just like, it would have been nice to see what prom was, or stuff like
Um,
that. But it would have
yeah,
just been nice to walk down the aisle, just to hear my name, just to wear that
right.
cap and gown. So
Achievement.
I went back to school. I got a job in a chiropractor's office and found out that I liked it. And so he sent me to school for free.
Wow. Oh, wow.
And yes, so I didn't have to pay for a thing. It was a whole year program. It was hard, and because I was working full time and had kids and stuff like that. And I was just like, well, I'm going to do this. I need to do this for me. So I did. And then right at the end, when we were just getting ready to take our finals, my sister had a procedure in the hospital. It was a day, in and out 1 day thing. And I was her ride home. So I went to pick her up and I went to get my car because she was done. And I went up into the parking lot and had a severe case of vertigo. Never had it in my life. Wound up
Oh,
in the hospital for 3 weeks. And I was like, okay, what about my schooling? That was all I cared about. And
oh,
my heart rate was 110, 120. My blood pressure was 160 over 110. They couldn't figure
oh.
it out, but I was like, okay, just let me go home so that I can go back to work so I can
You
go to
focused
school.
on school. Wow.
And so, I got out, and what happened after that was kind of cool. It was like God's intervention, because the program, the last leg of it, was online. Their programming system went down, and
Oh,
it was
man.
down. It was down for 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
Yeah,
Wow.
so I didn't miss any school. I missed nothing. So I
Oh,
was able to catch up.
wow.
So
So you
I
weren't
was like,
behind. Oh, my goodness.
no, I wasn't. I came back to work and I said to him, I said, how am I supposed to catch up? And he says, well, the class was canceled because they had problems with their programming. And so I jumped back in and wasn't behind. And we finished, and I took my test, and I got a phone call about a week later that from the dean of the class. She
15.
was like, congratulations, you did it. I heard you were sick, and I just wanted to talk to you, make sure that you were well. And she's like, you did it. And then she's like, I'm proud to say that you graduated top of your class. And I was like, okay, what's that mean? I didn't know. And she's like, you're going to travel to Florida to receive your diploma and speak as valedictorian of your class.
Amazing to share and very inspirational. And the fact that you went back later in life, I love seeing women reinvent themselves later in life.
Yeah, I had to because I needed to know who I was. And
Yes.
fortunately, I still had health and I could do it. And still love chiropractic. I just retired 2 years ago from the chiropractic world, from the medical world. So I was like, yay. Now I get to do my photography. And I just finished my second book. I know when I signed up for this, I had finished my first, but the second book is written as well.
Okay, I was going to ask you now, what actually inspired you to write like your first book, and who did you write it for?
I started the process 15 years ago, and it was published, but I put a halt to it because I was like, yeah, I didn't really want to do it. It was God being like, you need to do this. And that one was for me.
Okay.
It caused me to really look at myself and see where I needed healing, because it's been 15 years out since I was free from the abuse at that point in time.
Mhm.
But I didn't know how to heal. I had nobody showing me what to do, because at that point I still hadn't really told a lot of people what I survived through. So that book opened up that door for me to communicate to others to get the help that I needed. And so the first time I wrote was for me. And the
Okay.
second time I argued with God, and I was like, I'm not doing it. Because I just didn't want to. And it was hard. It was hard to open up all of the wounds because it was from the time I was 7 till the time I was 35. So there was a lot of, I hate to use the word baggage, but that's exactly what it is. When I was almost done the second time, which was not too long ago, I had to stop and went through a program called Healing Hearts program to learn how to get back into the layers that I couldn't get to, because I could still, like, when I was healing before, there would be times when I would just cry and I'd be like, I have no idea why. And then memories that I had put away that I didn't even realize that I buried them so deep started to come
Still
up.
there.
So that program helped me I needed to forgive myself because I waited and stayed in that house for so long instead of running from the husband. I had to forgive my mom, which I didn't realize I never did, for never being there for me. I blamed it on my dad as well, but then as the years went on, I realized that my mom was the one who kept him away. So I had to acknowledge that. And then I had to mourn the time that I lost. I lost almost half of my life being trapped in sex abuse and beatings every day. So there was a lot to mourn and let go of. And then I realized that I was codependent, not on alcohol or drugs or what you normally think you're codependent on, but because I wanted people to love me, I would attach onto people in the wrong way. I would,
No.
you know what I mean? Like, I would do things to make them happy just so that they like me. And that's just a very unhealthy way to live life. So there was a lot to uncover. So that stopped the book for a while, but it's finished. And then the second one is almost done. But I did it for other people so that they wouldn't have to live as long as me, not knowing what to do.
So if a woman is reading your book, and she feels broken, fearful, or ashamed, what message do you want her to receive?
That the pieces can be picked back up and put back together. It may not fit exactly the way you want them to fit, because there's parts of your life that are gone that you can't get back. But your broken pieces can be put back together and you can pick up your life and go on, and you can still find out who you are, because it's never too late. It's never too late um to to move on and let healing happen so you can grow.
How do you now define true freedom?
True freedom to me now is that I can accept who I am. I can't change the past. I take what was given to me, I grow from it. That's true freedom, to be able to take what was thrown at you and muddle your way through it and still be happy and realize that that is okay. Whatever your part in life is, embrace it and take it and love it and keep on going. That's freedom, not being stuck in your past as well. I was stuck in it for a long time. And true freedom is letting go. The hardest part someone taught me to do was to forgive. And Lord knows I didn't want to forgive the two people that did that to me. But true freedom came from that as well, because freedom, forgiving isn't them getting away with it. Forgiving them is me letting go of the bondage that what they did to me had on me. That's what forgiveness does.
I'm sure you've learned techniques along the way. What maybe daily habits or practices have helped you grounded and healed?
Going to a counselor. I found that it's not voodoo. Everyone's like, oh, you go to a counselor. Like, what's wrong with you? That is the old stigma. Seeking help is a blessing, and God put them there for a reason, and it is to help us in things that we don't understand how to get through. And going to my pastor whenever I had a question, I went. Whatever church I was going to, I went. And I got the help that I needed to stay grounded and to keep on going. But the counseling and finding that right woman counselor that I could talk to and share with was highly, highly important, because I shared with them more than I shared to my pastor. I could go and tell her the gory details and knew that she wasn't judging me. And that was the big thing. I was able to, because some people look at me and like they forget that I'm still a person. Oh my gosh, you lived through all that? Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. But they're not there for me. Do you know what I mean? They take the stories and they're amazed, but there's no support. Where she gave back, she heard, she was like, wow, that's a lot. But then she held me in a way that they couldn't hold me.
What would you say one truth is that every survivor needs to hear?
That they're worth something, that they have value and that they're loved. Because I felt like I had no value. I had to have no value, because if I got hit every day, then how do I have value? Like, so they are valuable and they mean something in life, that they have a purpose, and to never forget that.
If you could speak directly to a woman who's silently suffering today, what would you tell her?
That there is another side, that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and healing takes time. It's not something that you can rush through. It takes time, but you will feel better. It will get better. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Not to give up. I tried committing suicide 3 times, and thank God it didn't work. I never want to see anyone go through that. They should never give up. There is light at the end.
And to everyone watching, if Ruth's story touched your heart, please share this episode, leave a comment, and support her work. Remember, no matter what you've endured, your story is not over. Healing, purpose, and reinvention are still ahead. Until next time, stay fab, stay faithful, and keep shining.